Right now, without realizing it, you are teaching people how to disrespect you. You are not doing this intentionally, but your behavior creates that outcome. For more than 40 years as a clinical psychologist, I listened to thousands of people come to me with the same complaint. Someone in their life did not respect them, sometimes a boss, sometimes a parent, sometimes a spouse, sometimes their closest friend. And almost all of them asked the same question: how do I make this person respect me? Over the years, I realized there is a basic truth most people miss. You cannot force anyone to respect you. Respect does not work by instruction. But you can change the habits that invite disrespect into your life. Most likely, you did something today, maybe even just before this moment, that made you seem smaller than you really are. Before we go any further, let me be clear. I am not here to comfort you with motivational phrases. I am not going to tell you to stand in front of a mirror and repeat affirmations, or to visualize your best self, or any of those nice-sounding ideas that rarely change real life. What I am about to tell you comes from years of listening to people describe their relationships and watching the same cycles repeat. And yes, this may be uncomfortable, because it requires you to look at your own behavior instead of focusing only on the mistakes of others. Let's start with the first point. Stop giving long explanations to everyone about your decisions. I am serious about this. When someone questions a choice you made and you immediately move into defense mode, you are sending a message: my decision depends on your approval. I cannot move forward unless you agree. Many studies in psychology show that excessive self-justification is associated with being perceived as less confident and less authoritative. When you explain yourself to people who have no real right to demand an explanation, you place yourself beneath them in the interaction. You shrink your own value. I once worked with a client in her mid-40s, a very successful urban planner, who could not understand why her mother still treated her like a child. Whenever her mother questioned a decision, this woman would launch into long explanations. She listed her reasons, gave examples, and practically built a defense case. But her mother never stopped questioning her. Because the problem was not the questions, it was the endless explanations. Those explanations communicated, this decision is open for your approval. I suggested something simple. The next time her mother asked, "Why did you do that?" she should say, "Because I decided to," and end the sentence there. She thought that sounded rude and unrealistic. But she tried it. 2 weeks later, she called me. She said her mother was confused at first, then irritated, and then, for the first time, actually treated her differently. Her mother had realized that not every decision was open for debate. The second point is learning to be comfortable with silence. I am not talking about staying quiet while boiling inside. I mean real silence. When someone says something disrespectful to you, you do not have to respond immediately. Sometimes, not responding at all is the strongest response. Research shows that people who react instantly to provocation are perceived as more reactive and less powerful. Silence is not passivity. Silence is a conscious choice. It is a quiet way of saying, "I am not playing this game." Years ago, a colleague of mine was constantly interrupted in meetings. A younger employee kept cutting her off and subtly devaluing what she said. She had tried everything, calling him out, making jokes, being direct. Nothing worked. I suggested she try something different. The next time he interrupted her, she should stop speaking, not argue, not protest, just fall silent and look at him. It sounded ridiculous to her, but she tried it. The room went quiet for a few seconds, and the young man stumbled over his words, unsure how to fill the silence. After that, he never interrupted her again. Because that silence denied him the reaction he was seeking and took away his power in that moment. The third point, and this is the hardest one to accept, you must be willing to lose the relationship. I know that sounds extreme, but it is the foundation of everything else. If you stay in relationships where you are repeatedly disrespected, you teach the other person that they can treat you this way and you will remain. This message is rarely spoken, but it is felt. I am not saying you should cut people off at the first disagreement. But you need a real boundary. Not a line you keep moving every time it is crossed. I learned this in a painful way. My relationship with my son was tense for years. I was overly critical of his wife, and even when I realized it, I refused to fully admit it. When he confronted me, I defended myself and tried to justify my behavior. One day, he stopped calling. We have not spoken in years. He drew a boundary, and I did not take it seriously. It hurts deeply, but today I respect his choice. He chose to protect his marriage and his self-respect. I wish I had known when to be quiet, step back, and apologize. The fourth point is to stop trying to change how people think about you and start focusing on what you will and will not accept. Most people spend their energy in the wrong place. They ask, how can I make them take me seriously? How can I make them see my value? But you cannot control another person's mind. The only thing you can control is what you allow into your life. One of my clients complained that her husband constantly dismissed her opinions. I asked her what she did when that happened. She said she argued for hours. I suggested something different. The next time he dismissed her, she should simply leave the room without explanation. At first, this felt extreme to her. But she tried it. The first time, her husband was shocked. The second time, he was angry. The third time, he paused before speaking and chose his words more carefully. She had not changed his opinion of her, but she had changed what she was willing to accept. And that changed his behavior. The fifth and most uncomfortable point is this. You need to examine whether you truly respect yourself. Over the years, I observed that people who genuinely respect themselves rarely have chronic problems with being disrespected by others. Not because disrespectful people do not exist, but because they do not stay where disrespect is tolerated. They do not make excuses. They do not spend years hoping someone will change. They leave. They create distance. If you constantly find yourself in situations where you are disrespected, it would be cruel to say it is entirely your fault. But you do need to ask yourself what keeps you there. Is it fear of being alone, financial reasons, family pressure, or hope that things will improve? All of these are real and understandable. But they are also the ties that keep you in situations that harm you. At some point, you have to decide what matters more, the relationship or your self-respect. I chose wrong in the past. I put my pride above preserving the relationship. My son chose self-respect. Looking back, I wish I had been wiser then. I am telling you this now so you do not have to learn it the hard way. After decades of hearing people's stories about disrespect, this is what I know: you cannot make anyone respect you. But you can build such solid self-respect that disrespect has nowhere to land. You can stop explaining yourself to people who have not earned explanations. You can learn to remain silent when others are waiting for a reaction. You can be willing to lose what does not serve you. You can set clear boundaries instead of trying to change what others think. It is not easy. I struggled with this for years, and I still struggle in some areas. But maybe you can start today. Maybe you can reach out to someone you should not wait too long to call.